Billionaire poured wine on a single dad at her party, unaware of who he is. Then the wine hit his shirt before the crowd even processed what had happened. The crystal glass slipped from her hand, red liquid splashing across the chest of the man who stood frozen under the chandelier's golden glow. The party music didn't stop, but the attention in the room shifted sharply, like a tide pulling back. A billionaire heiress, famous for her ruthless confidence, had just drenched a quiet, exhausted-looking single dad in front of 100 of her elite guests. She had no idea who he truly was. She had no idea what would follow. If you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KH Stories to help more stories like this reach others. The moment the wine soaked through his faded button-up shirt, Daniel felt the burn of humiliation more intensely than the alcohol itself. He wasn't dressed like the other men in the room whose suits cost more than his monthly rent. He wasn't supposed to be here. He knew that. But life had a strange way of throwing him into places he never imagined, usually out of necessity rather than choice. Tonight he accepted an invitation he found on his late wife's old work email, sent automatically from a charity foundation she used to volunteer with. He thought it was a public event, open to families of volunteers. He didn't expect this: marble floors, champagne towers, glittering gowns, and people who probably never had to calculate whether they could afford groceries for the week. Daniel had shown up because the foundation had once donated medical supplies that helped his daughter, Lily, when she was fighting the fever that nearly took her life. He hoped to thank someone, anyone, for that help. He didn't know the event had become a private social gala hosted by Amelia Royce, the billionaire heiress known for throwing elaborate parties to impress board members and investors. Amelia had been moving through the room with the grace of someone raised among chandeliers and symphonies. Her dress sparkled like a constellation, and people parted for her as naturally as water around a stone. When she bumped into Daniel, his presence startled her. To her, he looked out of place, maybe a waiter who wandered where he shouldn't, maybe some nobody sneaking in for free wine. Her instinct wasn't kindness, it was annoyance. And with that annoyance, her grip loosened and the wine spilled. She didn't apologize. She barely even registered him. She simply scoffed, brushed past him, and continued greeting her guests. Daniel stood there, heart pounding, eyes burning, not from anger, but from the sudden reminder of everything he had been fighting to keep together. He had rushed from a long shift at the mechanic shop, picked Lily up from his neighbor, and barely made it in time. He wore the only shirt he had left that didn't have oil stains. And now it looked like he'd been in a crime scene. He slipped out the nearest door before anyone else could stare longer. He made his way to the garden outside, breathing deeply, trying to calm the ache in his chest. His whole day had been a mess, his boss warning him that hours might be cut, Lily's school calling about unpaid fees, the electricity bill waiting on the kitchen table. And now, this? A party he didn't belong at, ruined by someone who would forget him 5 minutes later. But life had another twist planned. While he stood outside attempting to clean the stain with a cloth napkin, a little girl approached him quietly. Curly hair, white dress, eyes full of childhood gentleness. She couldn't have been older than 7. She looked at him with the careful concern only children show when adults are hurting but pretending they aren't. She handed him a small pack of tissues. He thanked her softly. She didn't speak, but she stayed beside him, as if keeping him company mattered. A moment later a panicked woman rushed into the garden, Amelia. She froze when she saw the man she'd spilled wine on standing with the girl she adored more than anything in the world. Because the little girl was her sister's child. Amelia's niece, Emma. The one person Amelia softened for. The one life that kept her grounded. And Emma had chosen to walk toward him. Amelia apologized to her niece first, not to Daniel. She took Emma's hand gently, but Emma resisted, insisting on giving Daniel another tissue before letting go. When they walked away, Amelia glanced back, and for a moment, one she would later replay endlessly, She saw something she never expected, a father holding himself together with invisible tape, drowning silently but refusing to collapse because someone depended on him. The next day, Daniel returned to his routine. Fixing cars. Making lunch for Lily. Stretching every dollar. He didn't expect anything from the night before except another shirt to throw away. But Amelia was haunted by the sight she had seen. It wasn't his clothes or posture. It was the look in his eyes, the one she recognized from her own reflections after her parents died. A look of carrying too much alone. She spent that morning replaying details, the frayed collar of his shirt, the tired slump of his shoulders, the way he had apologized to her, even though she spilled wine on him. She felt something unusual, guilt. Not the superficial guilt of inconveniencing someone at a party, but the deeper kind, the kind that told her she had been exactly what the world accused her of being, dismissive, disconnected, insulated by wealth. On impulse, she used her foundation's database to check for volunteers, families of volunteers, anyone who matched the guest list mistakenly auto-invited. That's how she found his name, Daniel Hayes. Single parent. Daughter, Lily Hayes. Past charity support, medical assistance. That last detail struck her hardest. She didn't send an assistant. She didn't call. She drove herself to his workplace. Daniel was under a car hood when she appeared. His co-workers stared, whispering, while she approached him with a hesitant apology that felt strange on her tongue. She handed him a bag containing a new shirt, groceries, and a note offering to pay for Lily's school fees. He refused instantly, not out of pride, but because he believed kindness should never come with strings, especially from someone used to control. But life has a way of nudging two worlds toward each other when they least expect it. Emma insisted on seeing Daniel again, claiming she'd made a garden friend.